At Seacoast Stories, we believe in the power of getting people together. This podcast isn't just another piece of content to consume. It's a way to get people in the same room, face to face, because that is where life is best lived. That's where the magic happens. So that's why I am so proud to announce that the first Seacoast Stories Dinner Club is taking place this Wednesday at 7 p.m. in downtown Portsmouth. Here's how it works. You take a simple personality quiz, and then the tech matches you up with 5 other strangers that we believe you would enjoy having a dinner with. Then, Wednesday morning, you'll find out which Portsmouth restaurant you are dining at with these 5 people. You won't find out who you are with until you arrive at the restaurant, and there will be several groups at several restaurants around town simultaneously. And then after dinner, all of the groups will gather at one bar to continue the conversation and the connection. The Seacoast Stories family is growing by the day, and we want you to be a part of it. Whether you're searching for friends, business partners, clients, or even romance, we'll make sure to get you a seat at the right table. I'm so proud of this, and I'm so proud to partner with past podcast guests Ray and Ryan Lambert on this exciting project. To reserve your spot for Wednesday, just click the link in the show notes and take the quiz, and then come out on Wednesday night. I can't wait to see you then. Now on to today's episode. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Farkas, and on today's episode, my jaw-dropping conversation with David Vargas, the chef owner of Vida Cantina in Portsmouth and part owner of Nell's Barbecue in Kittery. Chef Vargas is one of the most highly respected people on the Seacoast. Vida Cantina is a staple, and anytime I mention his name in a conversation, the other person raves not only about the Mexican food, but also about the quality of the human being behind the food. My favorite thing about these interviews is that it provides an opportunity to learn more about our local heroes. There's always more to the person than meets the eye. And that is true, perhaps more for Chef Vargas than it is for any of the other 70 people I've had on the show so far. Because Chef Vargas lived a life prior to the Seacoast that none of us would have ever expected, based on the man he is today. Chef grew up in Santa Ana, California. The youngest of 8 children, he felt lost as a child, and he quickly succumbed to the pressures of the streets. From there, his path eventually took him to Arizona, Minnesota, Northern California, and even to the Virgin Islands, where he worked as a private chef for a criminal. Eventually, he and his wife came to the Seacoast, where he first lived on welfare before blowing his life savings on a food truck that failed. It wasn't until age 40, a few years into Vida, when things finally started clicking for Chef Vargas, largely thanks to Guy Fieri's visits to Vida for the Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives. Chef Vargas will discuss all of this and more on today's podcast, an episode that's presented by our friends at Samonas Realty and JOBTALK. Also of note, Chef Vargas is one of the co-founders of the New England B.I.P.O.C Fest, and he's recently stepped back from the day-to-day of Vida Cantina to focus on his new role as the school nutrition director at Noble High School in North Berwick, Maine. This story is one you just have to hear to believe, and I must warn you, it does get explicit, so listener discretion is advised. With that said, here's Chef David Vargas on the wild life he lived in California decades before coming to the Seacoast.
Actually, at some point, I actually tried to go into the military because I thought that's what I really wanted to do. And back then, they actually didn't accept everybody. And since I had flat feet, they said I wouldn't be able to stand for long periods of time. Imagine that, right? And look at me now. Yeah, I was down in MEPS, which anybody knows about. Like, if you try to go into the military, like, that's like the final step. You know, you're in a big room basically naked with a bunch of other guys and you're doing like duck walks and making sure you're fit to be in the military and stuff. And they didn't accept me. I guess I was not fit. I didn't fit the mark all the way. And so they rejected me, said I could get a waiver if I wanted to. And I was like, nah, I'm good, at that point. But really, I thought that was like it, for me. I thought either military or becoming a cop or something like that was going to be it. But I took a lot of turns for the worse as a young kid, being Southern California. There's a song by Atmosphere that talks about living in the city and you get distracted by the devil every day. And I was definitely distracted by the devil every day as a young kid. And so I think that steered me away from my actual vision of going into anything like that. But no story is written wrong, I feel like, especially if you end up in the right place in the end, and so everything that I did has gotten me to where I'm at right now. So I'm not complaining one bit.
What was the devil that you were dealing with?
As a young kid, I got into drugs really early on.
How young?
Well, I was 13 years old when I started smoking pot. And so that was the first thing right off the bat. And I just remember this line cook that we had at the restaurant as well would do coke all the time. And so I would do it with him as a young kid as well. And so at 13, 14, 15 years old, I was already smoking pot, doing coke. And so by the time I was like a junior in high school, like I was deep in it already. Acid every single weekend during the weekdays and things like that. I don't know. I think I was lost as a kid. And at the same time, I think I felt like lost from everybody else. There was a big disconnect from the rest of my brothers and what they were doing and to comparison to what I was doing. And so I kind of like went off my own way. My parents were getting divorced at the time during high school. And so you could feel that separation, whether or not. Shout out to both my parents. My father has passed away since then, and they tried to do their best. But at that age, you can't really hold a kid down. And so I went off the deep end and I went into the drug scene really hardcore. And I felt like the most comfortable there. And I felt like maybe this is the only thing I'm good at. Maybe I'm supposed to be like a drug addict. I don't know if I was slowly trying to kill myself at a young age, or thinking like maybe this is the best that the world has for me. But I was really good. I was really good at doing drugs. I was like excellent at it and I could handle a lot. I remember one time we ate 100 hits of acid and would take 20 tabs of Valium to come down off of it. And so like those things, like I think about those times that it definitely fried me for sure, but it got me to where I wanted to be now, because now I think about myself back then to what I am now. Now I don't do anything. I don't even drink, And so like it shaped me to who I am right now. But back then I think I was just so lost. I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. I felt like my parents didn't understand me. I felt like only my friends understood me. And even them, I mean, they were going off to college. They were getting good grades, everything like that. But the only thing that felt right was the amount of dope that I could do on a daily basis. Basically overtook my life, from the heroin that we used to do to the cocaine, to the amount of ketamine. We used to go down to Tijuana when I was like, at this point, so not to jump too far. I mean, I never graduated high school. I got kicked out of my high school, the beginning of my senior year.
For what?
For what they said was a life-threatening song that I wrote about one of our teachers there. And
really?
I just, as a kid, I didn't like this teacher. I never liked him. I thought he was after me the whole time. I was in drama class and I could play guitar, and I wrote this punk song because I was really into punk music back then. And I said, so train your little army and tuck them in their bunks. Don't forget, we warned you, you should not fuck with punks. And I sang that in drama class. The drama teacher then told the principal. The principal called me in and expelled me from the school for threatening the teacher.
Wow.
And so at that point, I remember my mom had just had cataract surgery and she had to come in, bandages on her eyes, God bless her that she still is with me, by my side every single day, through all this shit. And And so they expelled me, and I tried to go to another high school. And at that time I was just like, fuck this. High school sucks. It's not worth anything for me. And there was only so much that she could do. You know, they were going through a divorce, and they were just, you know, she had so much shit on her mind as well at the same time. And so, she couldn't just control any of that narrative that I was just going to end up not going to school no matter what. So the second school I went to my senior year, I actually ended up leaving, tried to go to a continuation school, and then I just like never showed up. And so I just never even graduated.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much, you know, heavy drug users, some are prolific and can pretty much mask it. Sometimes you otherwise wouldn't know that they are heavy users. Other people, it completely derails their life. How much did your heavy drug use affect who you were as a person?
Oh, majorly. I mean, physically, you could see it in me. I mean, the amount of meth that I used to do as a kid, I was probably, you know, I wrestled up to like junior year in high school, and I used to wrestle 162s. I think senior year, I was down to like 145.
Wow.
I had, you know, face scars all over my face right here from being up all night, pinching my face, you know. I mean, I stole from my family. I remember one time I broke into, at this point now, my dad and my mom were divorced. I broke into my dad's house and stole a bunch of money from him.
Wow.
And it got to a point where I had a buddy in high school, but my friends still trusted me. My friends still had my back. And then it got to a point where a friend just said like, hey, I'm moving to Arizona. You ain't doing shit here. I had like $7 in my pocket because the most I would do is go down to Mexico, buy vials of ketamine for $7, sneak them back in a Tommy Hilfiger bag hanging between my nutsack, and then cook them up and then cut them up and then sell them at raves. And he's like, just come with me to Arizona. He's like, let's get you off and get you clean kind of deal. And it helped. It was my buddy Karsten. I owe a lot to him. He moved me there with $7 in my pocket. He's like, don't worry about it. He's like, I got you. And we moved to this cabin in the woods in Prescott, Arizona. Beautiful area. And I was able to kick the ketamine at that point. The ketamine was really what I was super addicted to. So like, I don't know how many people that were addicted to drugs you've talked to, but to get rid of one, you go to another. And that's basically what my life has been over the last however many years, you know? And so to kick ketamine, I went to ecstasy. To kick ecstasy, I went more back to, you know, marijuana. To kick more marijuana, I went back to drinking, you know? And so like, it's been a slow get off over so many years. And I feel like now I've been completely sober for the last like 7 years. And like,
congrats.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And now like, myself, and I owe it to my wife, you know, she's the one that's like getting us on our real health journey, is more focused on like my overall health, you know, not only physically, but mentally as well. And as we'll get to, making this change into this next chapter of my career has been like the next realm of getting there mentally as well.
Wow. This is quite the evolution. I want to go back to the decision to move to Arizona. Your friend Karsten, did he drag you kicking and screaming there, or did you want to make a change?
No, I wanted to make a change. I knew at that point, you know, I think I even had a girlfriend at the time, and she stayed. And I was just like, I need to go, you know, I need to go for myself. I remember we moved there and I had no money. So my first job I got a steel factory, and it was a job, and I knew I needed that. I needed that whole transition, you know, I needed something to kind of get it going a little bit more, start focusing on what is right, you know? And so from there, it just like started clicking more and more like, all right, this is what I should be doing. This is how I need to be adulting. And believe me, there was plenty of steps along the way through Arizona that, you know, I got arrested. I went to jail in Arizona, spent a couple nights in county there.
For what?
We had a party at a house, and I came out and I was talking shit to the police officers because I thought I was invincible. And so I remember being face down on the ground and being arrested and it was a Friday. So then of course you don't have court until Monday. So you're in the weekend in county and things like that. So it still was like lessons that I needed to learn along the way, like, hey, you're going, but you're not there at all. Like it wasn't, like, oh, now it's time to smarten up. No, it took me a long ass time to figure out how to smarten up. And I feel like that has helped me a lot, especially in the kitchen, to help train and help motivate people in the right way.
Yeah. You said that when you started kicking ketamine, it led you to ecstasy and then ecstasy to something else. When did it start to turn for you? What was the turning point?
So, gosh, it took a long time, when my wife and I met, we were living up in northern Arizona, up in Humboldt. She was the gardener for the restaurant I was working at. And then we sold everything we owned and moved to the Virgin Islands.
Okay. For context, how old are you at this time?
When we moved, I was probably 25, 26, something like that. 25,
okay.
I'm going to say.
From northern Arizona to the Virgin Islands.
No. So from northern Arizona, I moved to Minneapolis. Right away. And I went to college there. I actually ended up getting my GED right before I left Arizona. My buddy helped me get my GED. Okay. And I moved to Minneapolis and I went to culinary school there.
Okay. All right. So let's pause there.
Yeah.
What prompted that decision? Because that's huge.
I had another buddy that was living in Minneapolis. My friend that was living in Arizona was going to school, and it was time for him to switch from community college to a university. And he was going to Northern California. And so I was like, all right, what am I going to do? Do I stay here? Do I go to Northern California? Do I go back to SoCal? And I was like, don't go to SoCal. We've been there. We've done that. And I was like, at that time, I was high as shit on, and my buddy that was living with me, I was making a fried bologna sandwich all the time for us. And we were so high. He's like, you could fucking sell these things. These things are fucking amazing.
Everyone who's been high has had the same conversation.
And I was like, man, maybe I could be a chef. I was like, I know food, in some form. I was like, maybe this is it. And so a buddy of mine that lived in Minneapolis, a good friend, said, hey, there's a culinary school up here. Why don't you move up here and go to culinary school? And I was like, all right, I'll do that. So I drove out.
You had never thought about it before?
No. And so I was like, you know what? Let's try this out. And I go out to Minneapolis, end up falling in love with Minneapolis. Whoever's been to Minneapolis, it's a cool area. I would just wish they had the ocean, know? And so I end up going to culinary school there. I go there for 2 years, something like that. And it was an amazing experience. Everything all together is just incredible. I had a 10-speed and I would cruise, to school, then to a couple different restaurants. And that's when I guess the spark started happening a little bit more.
Do you mind me asking how you got into culinary school and how you could afford it?
So I couldn't afford it. It was a Le Cordon Bleu, which
right. Chef Evan Hennessy, he went there to the New Hampshire chapter.
Hey, do you remember DeVry? Do you remember these commercials? I don't know how old you are.
University?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in the end, they ended up realizing that DeVry was a fraud, right? And they stopped the repayment of school loans from there. So in the end, Le Cordon Bleu was considered a fraud as well. They promised all these kids, get out of culinary school, make $60,000 a year, blah, 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 And so they considered it a fraud and they stopped everybody's school loan in the end as well. So to get into this culinary school was nothing. You just call them up, say, yo, I want to go to school. They're like, hell yeah, give us your money. Oh, wait, you have none? Great. Sign right here on all these loans that will help you get. And you're like, yeah, totally. I'm going to make $60,000. Little did I know my first job out of culinary school, $7.25 an hour, man. It was insane, So I went to culinary school in Minneapolis. I got a first job at Cafe Barbette, which is this French bistro in Minneapolis. And I remember walking downstairs and this guy, Luke Henderson, he was smoking a joint downstairs before service. And I was like, hey, man, you're allowed to? He's like, I don't give a fuck. What are they going to say? Kick me out? They need me tonight. And I was like, genius. This is amazing. I love this industry so much. So he got so high and I went upstairs and I was like, I worked the risotto, oyster, and crepe station. And I was like, I love this thing. Like, this is it. This is for me, like something just hit and I got the bug and it bit me fucking hard. And I was like, okay, so to do this, I just have to be better, faster, and stronger than everybody else while being the most humble. No fucking problem. I said, I really don't like talking to people, if you can imagine that. I get a little overwhelmed when I do it. I was like, so I can keep my head down and I could just be stronger, faster than anybody. So I just started, I was like, let me get another job. So I worked 4 days a week there. And then 2 days I worked at this Italian restaurant called Trattoria Da Vinci's. And I was like, the more education I have, the better I'm going to be off. And then I was like, I really love Japanese cuisine. I was like, I wonder if I could get a job there. And so I worked there on my 7th day, on a Sunday, just washing dishes. And I just did it. And I just cranked it out. And I was loving it so much. And I went through the whole process of culinary school. And at that point, they said, you have to go out for your internship. And I was like, oh, where do I go? And I was like, my buddy that was living in Arizona, he was like, I'm up in Humboldt, northern Arizona. He's like, come out. There's a lot of nice restaurants out there. And so I was like, yeah, let me reach out to him. And I found this really cool restaurant. It was a 12-seat restaurant that was all farm driven, local driven. And so I got an internship there. I pull up there after culinary school and drive all the way across, and the chef is leaving. He decided to quit. And so he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, I got no job for you. Maybe the next chef or whatever will, have something for you. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, I signed up for this internship. Like, so I end up talking to the owner. He's like, yeah, I got somebody coming in, not for a while though, but we'll put you in pastry land. Little did he know, in pastry school at culinary school was the only class I never paid attention. Actually never went to it. I would go out with a buddy, Jake Garrett, and we would just get high during class, Oh
my God.
I was like, I'll never, because I'm young, I don't understand the chef world. I was like, I'll never use pastries. I'm not going to be a pastry chef. First fucking gig I get, getting paid $0 an hour as a pastry chef. And I need to do this to fully graduate this culinary school. So I end up getting a job in the morning time, making $7.25 an hour as a line cook at this lunch spot, and then going there and I just have my books and I just go into the pastry department, which is this little fucking closet. And I just open up my books and I just go to town. Wow. And I just dial it in by getting super fucking stoned and just go into town. Just like, fuck, I'm just going to make pastries. I'm just going to make pastries and nobody's going to fuck with me. I'm going to be the best at it, Wow. And I just realized the more and more I get aggressive at this career, the more and more I can become better. I'm there for a while, and owner, true to his word, brings in this chef Andrew Richardson from Newcastle, England. He is the best thing that could ever fucking happen to me. He shapes me to what I am right now. If you look at me as a chef, everything is modeled after this man. Okay. He came in so fucking humble, just loves the grind. Still to this day, he owns 3 restaurants now up in Vancouver. And it was just like this bond that we had. And it was so beautiful. And, I worked for him for a year, basically. And then he left to open up those restaurants up in Vancouver.
Wow.
And I eventually actually ended up taking over and being the chef of that restaurant.
Wow. Okay.
But it was such a beautiful journey to get me to where I was, because eventually the gardener for that restaurant is my wife.
Yes. And I'm sure she was integral to the turning point as well.
Yeah.
But before that, I've never worked in the restaurant industry, but from what I've heard from many people who have, is that it is riddled with drug problems in the kitchens. People are snorting lines. They're doing a lot of the drugs that you had grown up doing. How hard was it for you to be in these kitchens, trying to build your own career, trying to escape all that stuff when it was probably surrounding you?
So the great thing about it is, back in Minneapolis, absolutely, it's around you constantly. At that point, I had made my decision that I'm not going to go down that realm already, And I think because I started so early, because I felt the bottom of what those drugs did to me, I wanted something more. And I think because I got bit so hard by the culinary industry and wanting to become excellent at this industry, I realized this is not the realm I'm going to take. Now, the alcohol and the marijuana was still there. that was like calming the beast a little bit, you know? And so I didn't realize how I could tame that naturally and through mental therapy myself, you know? I was still too young. I didn't want to work through those things just yet, you know? I didn't realize how many demons I still had in me through, I said my father who has passed, it was just the father I lived with my whole life. My real father actually left me when I was 1 year old. So like, that was like something I hadn't dealt with fully yet, you know, and things like that. And so like those things as a young kid, especially in Mexican culture, you don't deal with therapy. Like now with our kids, you know, like those are the things that we want them to deal with, you know, as a young kid. So you don't take that with you as an adult, you know. We want you to journal. We want you to seek therapy. We want you to, you know, yoga. We want you to work through these things healthy style so you don't have to work through them unhealthy as you get older and you're out in the world, you know. And so it was great for me to get that bug. So that was like what like pushed me to like want to get away from those other things.
Yeah, you got the bug. It sounds like you had a great amount of drive. And once you were fully in it, you wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
Just a few years prior, as a kid in California, you thought this drug thing, this is just going to be my life. This is all I'm destined for.
That's
so what was it like for you to finally see a different path for yourself?
You know, it really wasn't till I got that executive chef job or till I met Chef Andrew that I realized like, oh, this is what healthy chefing can look like to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Even though, you know, we were still drinking, you know, at night, Andrew and I and things like that and the kitchen crew, but he didn't create an environment where there was heavy drug use. If you were in that, you voted yourself off the island, you know? And so if you create this environment, those people are the only people that are going to flock there. And that's when I started quickly realizing that thing. If they don't get on board with you, they're going to quickly get out of there because they're not going to feel comfortable themselves, you know? And so like, once I realized that, I was like, oh, I could really use this tool and create better and better environments as I go along in this industry, you know, while bettering myself and striving for greatness.
Let's be honest. Job hunting can feel like kayaking down the Piscataqua while blindfolded and juggling lobsters and a Dunkin' iced coffee. But luckily for you, my friend Crystal Hicks of JOBTALK is basically the career whisperer of the Seacoast. Crystal is not your typical career coach. She's got zero interest in cheesy LinkedIn hacks or telling you to manifest a six-figure job from your mom's basement. Instead, she gives real, no BS guidance to help you figure out where you actually want to work and how to get there without losing your mind. Whether you're stuck in a job that drains your soul, like Route 1 traffic in July, or if you're trying to jump back into the workforce after a break, Crystal's been there. She's worked in HR for Lindt Chocolate and UNH, where she herself has hired people. She's seen it from both sides, and now she helps you become the person that gets hired. So before you hit apply on another sketchy Indeed post, schedule your free consultation at JOBTALKLLC.com and get Crystal in your corner. If you don't have time for counseling, our listeners can get one of Crystal's online courses for 50% off using the code Seacoast Stories 50 at checkout. That's Seacoast Stories 50 to get 50% off any course on subjects like building a great resume, cover letter, or LinkedIn profile. Your future self, probably chilling with a beer on Rye Beach, will thank you. You ever try buying a house on the Seacoast without help? It's like trying to parallel park on Market Street on a Saturday in July. Stressful, sweaty, and someone's probably watching you fail. That's why you need Samonas Realty, the local legends who make house hunting feel more like a day at the beach and less like a day at the Dover DMV. Samonas isn't some faceless national chain trying to convince you that a 400 square foot condo with a peekaboo ocean view is a steal at $1.2 million. No, these folks are born and bred Seacoasters who know the difference between Hampton and Hampton Beach, which I just learned, by the way, and who won't accidentally take you to look at a, quote, quaint fixer-upper that's actually an old Portsmouth brothel. Whether you're a first-time buyer, relocating from Boston, or are just tired of explaining to your landlord why the toilet whistles when you flush, Samonas Realty is your team. I've personally spent time with the entire Samonas family, and I can tell you, they're the real deal. They know their stuff. So when you're ready to get into the real estate game, just visit SamonasGroup.com or visit their office on Bow Street and tell them Seacoast Stories sent you. Thank you, Samonas Realty, and thank you, JOBTALK, for supporting the show. Now back to my conversation with David Vargas, who tells the story of how he and his wife randomly moved to the Virgin Islands.
3 months into dating, my wife comes to me, or my girlfriend at the time, says, I had this crazy dream last night that we were on this tropical island and I was in a sarong and you were laying down on a beach towel and we had kids around us, our kids around us. Now imagine your girlfriend of 3 months tells you this. You're like, do I freak out right now?
I'd be freaking out, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden, this thing started happening and we were talking about it. And we're like, you know, we had friends that had lived on St. Croix and things like that. And we're like, how about we just sell everything we own and move with 2 bags, a cat and a dog, and just go to the Virgin Islands and figure it out for ourselves. And so we did. You know, you're young enough. We had no jobs. We had just enough money to buy a car that we shared with 4 of us all together. We bought a $700 car.
Wow.
And we got a house with 4 people, 2 other people that we knew.
Okay.
And then we just went on the street, like looking for a job in the industry. You could find a job. I just went restaurant to restaurant. And the last restaurant that I went to was looking for somebody and I got hired on. My wife was looking for work in organic farming, walked, like a good mile or 2 miles to the other side of the island, and got a job at the organic farm, within a week. And we just started going at it. And we were there for 5 years. Wow. Our son was born there, and it was a cool adventure, should I say?
Yeah.
Fun story. A year into it, I was at a bar with a buddy that I had now, or that lived there, and 4 gunmen came into the bar and robbed the whole place and pistol whipped us in the back of the head and robbed us of everything we had. And I always say, if my wife was there at the time, we would have been off the island in a year. But because she didn't experience that. We stayed for another 4 after that, but it was it's a beautiful island. It's very high class or low class. The middle class doesn't really exist there. So crime is really high there too, but it's absolutely gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to visit St. Croix, the beaches are incredible and everything like that. We got married down there and, we had a good life there. And then we decided when we were pregnant with our little girl, we decided to move back.
David, our definitions of fun story are different. If you're getting robbed at gunpoint is a definition of a fun story. 2, you ended up working for as a private chef.
Yeah.
For a family there, right?
Which was really cool. So I had the opportunity. I was working at that restaurant that I got a job at. And then there was a flyer that came up on the newspaper that said, opportunity to work as a private chef for a family. And I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool. And it actually really was. I got a job. I was one of 3 chefs. They had 1 at their house, 1 on the boat, and then 1 at their office. I was the one at the office. The family was it was a husband and wife, only on island about 3 months out of the year. So we got paid year round to basically just be there in case they decide to show up, even though they wouldn't. So we would talk to the pilot, and be like, hey, are they coming on island this week? And they're like, we maybe not, maybe. So my job was to create a 3-course meal 5 days a week just for lunch. I have 3 different options. So I would just have to cook. And then if they didn't show, I would just feed the staff and then cook again and then feed the staff. And then whatever was left over from the week, I would just give to the staff.
Wow. And
they were just filthy rich, but it came out to find out they pulled one of the biggest Ponzi schemes next to Bernie Madoff.
Really?
And so I was in in the office when the SEC came in and raided the whole place to shut us down completely. So it was kind of crazy being part of that whole experience. The gentleman ended up getting like 125 years in prison.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like a crazy experience to be part of that and to be part of like, there are people that somewhat legally probably live that kind of lifestyle. And to experience watching people live that lifestyle of just like being flown in, and just having their own private chef there. I mean, my kitchen overlooked the Caribbean Sea. I had a AC unit just pumping on me, just, cooling down the Virgin Islands. And then I had like this complete Viking kitchen setup, just top high end. If I wanted a nice Italian ice cream maker, which I had, I bought it, like everything. I had everything it was like a crazy experience altogether.
Wow.
Yeah.
Truly rags to riches.
Totally. It was insane, So it was like when I found out they wouldn't come in, it'd be in the morning by the pilot. Then I would like clean up, hand out the food to everybody, and then I'd just go serve. And then I'd just go back home, and that was like our life for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of going back home, I do want to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Your wife is from Concord, New Hampshire.
Yep.
And you guys eventually, after coming back from the Virgin Islands, you make the decision to come to the East Coast to be closer to where she's from.
Yep.
Where did you go?
We ended up getting an apartment in Cape Nettic.
Okay.
Which was really cool because it was like 2 doors down from her grandmother. And so I got a job in Perkins Cove there at MC Perkins Cove. It was a fun job. But when we moved here, I think MC Perkins Cove paid me like $12 an hour or something like that. And I supported all 4 of us on $12 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. It was amazing time.
How?
Kudos to my wife. She was like excellent with budgets and finances and still is to this day. She still runs everything for us. But when you make that much and the kids are that young, they don't need much. They just need a hose and some dirt really. And they're happy as shit. You know what I'm saying? And when you don't need to do that much, you're just like, and when you don't have the money to do that much, like, it's just what it is. And once again, kudos to her to supporting me in what I wanted to do. I really wanted to be a chef. And so she went along for the ride this whole time, I remember we would get our paycheck, she would cash it, boom, pay rent, and then put an envelope up on our refrigerator and be like, we have $20 for gas for the next 2 weeks. We have this much for food for the next 2 weeks, The Maine system is also really good. So when we got here, we were able to get, I think they call it Cub Care for the kids. So it was full medical, it's a one-stop shop instead of like California where you have to go to like drive, 3 hours to go to another, service or 3 hours, I was able to go to one service stop and get insurance for the kids, get WIC, if you know what WIC is, mother, infant, child. It's basically these credits that they give you at certain grocery stores to get like, milk, eggs, bread, stuff like that. Shout out to all the families out there that ever had to do WIC. They don't make it easy at the grocery stores. Is like, I remember my wife and I would be the person that do WIC just because it's very humbling and very humiliating at the same time, because you're the one there and they stop the line and they go over the loudspeaker. We got a WIC person here. Just need to do a check on the grocery items that they're getting. So it announces it, everybody that's behind you is fucking irritated because they want to try to get through the line. Little do they know. And they're looking at you like, man, what a fucking degenerate, things like that. But I had it down to the system, like put the WIC tickets with the certain items I was getting and stuff like that. And then they gave us like $400 in EBT debit card, And so for a year, it helped us so much. It was such a good system that Maine had. I mean, I worked. My wife didn't because we couldn't afford childcare, so she stayed home with the 2 kids. But it was just that, we would just get through it by those little things, I remember she would take a big sack of oatmeal that she would get, grind it up into flour, and then make oat tortillas and put a stack in the fridge, make a big pot of rice and beans. And that's what we ate. We had plenty of flour, water, yeast, and oil. And we would just we would each go back and forth daily trying to perfect this bread out of Julia Child's cookbook. Like, oh man, I did this time. And, and then we just it was that simple, and take the kids on walk and the marginal way in Cape Nettic or Algonquin, and like, it was so simple back then in that aspect, but we made it through together. And it's harder as the kids get older, right? They want cell phones. They want the things the other kids have, but as they're younger, they don't want shit. They just want to be happy and they want to be next to you.
Yeah. I don't have a family, but as a young man, and I think about one day having a family, like I'm going to want to do whatever is necessary to be able to provide for them. But I'm wondering, like, you were getting by on so very little. Were you really happy in your life, or did you feel bad or guilty or insecure the fact that you couldn't provide them with a better life beyond a hose?
All of that. You know what I mean? It's like, as a father, as the father figure in it, as the one that's supposed to be going to work and coming home to provide, you want to give more. And it used to frustrate me. It used to get me so mad. And I think my wife and I used to get into fights over it and stuff like that. Financial trouble is the worst fucking trouble, or the causes the worst fights between couples. You know what I'm saying? And you're both upset over the same thing, Eventually you come to an agreement that like, hey, there's nothing else that we can do. But that financial stress, that financial worry, creditors calling you, people looking to get paid, blah, blah, blah. It's the same shit, but it was so tough. And at the same time, so freeing, don't get me wrong. Now that we're a little bit better spot, better for the kids for sure. We're not like raking in the dough. Believe me, if you're going into the restaurant business to make money, you're in the wrong fucking business. You're in the wrong fucking business. Well, I literally drove away from work the other day and I called my wife. I said, I'm so happy all our employees are happy and making money, but we don't make shit for money. It is so tough.
Yeah, I heard you say on a podcast recently that in 2024 at Vida Cantina, with all your years of experience with it being one of the best restaurants on the Seacoast, that you took home $70,000, which someone of your pedigree deserves way, way, way more than that. But that's just how it is.
I mean, and if you think about that 70, I remember this podcast I would talk about it, 30% goes to Uncle Sam, right? So take away that. 16,000 at that time went to medical benefits for my whole family. Now that's what you're left with. You know what I mean? Like it's insane to think about,
Yeah.
But at the same time, going back to that original question, like having nothing and figuring out what you can do with nothing really shapes you, and it really, as we left Cape Nettic after a year and to the blessings of this area at $12 an hour, we bought a home, right? In Kittery, a little crappy home, but we made it our home. It was a duplex that we knocked down the middle wall and turned to a single family home. So we used to have to walk, through my son's room to get to my daughter's room to get to our room. It was like that kind of setup. And we really never did any remodeling till the last 3 years because we could still never afford it, even after all these years in the business. It really showed who loved us for who we were and how much we could endure together as a family.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at us four, my wife, Erica, my son, Kavika, my daughter, Ia, like our bond is so fucking strong. It's so cool. Like our kids love to hang with us. And I feel like it started at a young age because we were just that well connected. And as we moved into the Kittery system, we figured out, oh, okay, like these people appreciate us for who we are and what we have, Yeah, we're not like, we don't have everything in the world, but this is what we can bring. And little by little, as we became members of the community, people saw that more and more, but were they there for the beginning ride? I don't think so.
Everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
Someone said that to me one time. When you've got your people, your ride or dies with you, your family, that's really all you need. And I think when you live on so little and get by and survive it, you realize, you don't actually need that much to be happy. You just need people and purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. One of the things I say to my son, especially he's going off to college in a couple weeks. And I said, I'm sorry, kid. I was like, you don't have family money, financial wealth in that sense. But what you do have is a strong love that will never fucking die. And I promise you, I will work my ass off to get you whatever you need when I can, and that's just, I feel like he's so appreciative of that, and so is my daughter.
Congratulations to be able to send your child off to college. That
Thanks.
Is incredible.
Yeah.
This is Seacoast Stories. And so we love talking about the Seacoast. So you had bounced all over the world, North America, and you guys eventually realized, you know what? This is the spot.
Yeah.
This is the place to be. You got your house in Kittery. What about Kittery and the Seacoast at large made you realize this is the spot?
It took a little bit. We got Vida Cantina. I met my business partner, Jay McSherry, and we got rolling on it. And having a restaurant like that, something that is near and dear to my heart, doing the cuisine that I grew up with, is something that in the end, I always wanted. But I knew it was going to have to take a lot to get it to where I wanted it to be. The perception of what Mexican cuisine is in New England or on the seacoast of New Hampshire and Maine is very sad. People are constantly still to this day, look at us and like, why don't you have burritos, fajitas, yellow cheese, black olives, all those things. And don't get me wrong. I love a good Taco Bell and all those things, but we were doing something completely different. So it was either like go all in on this or go the opposite way.
Truly authentic Mexican.
Yeah, truly. And I wouldn't even say it's authentic. It's my rendition of what New England Mexican Mexicano cuisine could look like, and really Mexican cuisine is just fresh food. And so I wanted to take the traditional flavors and push the realm of what Mexican cuisine can look like other than your typical one that you found here on the Seacoast. And so as I kept diving into it, we realized, my wife and I realized that this community is super strong, and it supports each other very strong if you support it. And I think that's how we started to dive deeper and deeper into not only our community actions, but what we could do with our restaurant to support it as well.
Now, to be clear, you are not the founder of Vida Cantina.
No.
It was started, and then the head chef left, and then Jay McSherry found you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So after 1 year, Jed Bodarski was the original chef there, and I knew him, and he reached out to me, and he said, "Hey, I'm leaving." Him and his girlfriend were moving somewhere. He's like, "Are you interested?" He's like, "I had a food truck at the time that failed in the Tributary parking lot prior to Tributary being there." And he's like,
it was a $35,000 mistake, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's laughable / not laughable at the same time. Or college lesson, should I say too. And so he called me and he said, "Are you interested in this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I definitely am." This is the exact food that I was doing in the food truck, but now I get to do it in this brick and mortar. So I took the position, and Jay and I just kind of hit it off right off the bat. And I just decided I'm going to take that mentality and dive everything into making this place successful, because this is the last chance I have. After losing the food truck, and at the time, I think I was 36, 37 years old. My wife even gave me the motivation. She's like, "This is all you know what to do." Because I thought I was going to go to get a job at the shipyard and just go off and, be one of those guys and stuff like that, because I needed to support my family. And she's like, "This is what you love to do. Just do it." And I just dove deep right into it, almost too deep in the sense I gave everything, everything I had to trying to make this place successful, and it was a rough 3-4 years to begin with, nobody realized what we were doing or anything like that. At Vida. I remember back then I used to actually have to pay my bussers and servers more because they wouldn't walk with any money, I think they walked with $50 a night on a Friday, Saturday night, And so all of a sudden, like things started to click. We added catering onto the menu. Guy Fieri picked us up.
Right. I definitely want to talk about that.
And so he came and ate our pig head. And so like all those things. And then all of a sudden we just started getting press after press after press. And we were getting this push. And I felt like it was like they were looking at this little taqueria that was in New Hampshire doing, good fucking food.
Yeah. And I want to get to that in a moment, but we joked about your food truck. You invested your life savings into that, and you didn't have that much, and you thought that was going to be the thing, and then you pretty much tackled it for like a year.
Yep.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
We talked about how financial problems are terrible for marriages, and I'm sure your wife was not too pleased with you.
Fucking pissed.
Yeah.
So pissed, and rightfully slow. I just invested everything, and I did it with a business partner so it was like with another person that wasn't just her and I at the same time, and so like I just lost everything.
Why didn't it work?
I couldn't support two families, first of all. And in the end, myself and the business partner, we just didn't see eye to eye on the way the business should run.
Yeah.
And so it was just better for me to take my lickings and walk away from everything, you know? It was fucking brutal. It was so brutal. So for her to actually say, go back into the industry and give it a shot.
I'm shocked by that.
She's a saint, man. She's incredible. She's next level. And I put her up on goddess pedestals all the time. And I think she knows, but she's like, for who she is right now and everything she's been through in her life, you could do a Seacoast stories just on her. She's fucking amazing, a human being. She does Reiki now for the family, energy healing. She's a black belt at Taekwondo. she's like, I'm like, dude, like, and you're with me? Like, what the fuck? Like, it's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible that she pushed you to
continue
further continuing your dreams when many others would have been like, all right, dude, I'm out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you're at Vida. First couple of years are a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives. The people know I don't watch TV. I can't sit still. But Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives is like the only show I can sit down to watch. This is the only show I can watch. I love that show.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant concept.
Yeah.
And as someone who loves supporting local and highlighting local stories, Triple D is very much a form of that.
Totally.
Tell me about, because I really know nothing about the inner workings of the show. How did the opportunity come about?
So he was coming to this area and he wanted to do segments on enough shows so he could make plenty of shows for that season, and so he put a bid out to a bunch of restaurants. A bunch of restaurants put it out there calling for it.
Wait, when you say he put a bid out, do you mean that like Guy Fieri just put out like, hey, we're coming to New England.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us which restaurants we should go to?
Or apply to be one of the restaurants.
Okay, so it's an application process.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to go like, what were the dishes that you would think I would like? Can you send us the recipes? It was like this whole step process that you have to work with their production company with, And so we went through that whole process. And I mean, right away, I knew it was going to be the pig head, right? You got to give him something slutty that he would like, be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, And that's my Guy Fieri voice. And so I went with the pig head and I picked up right away. So it was a cool thing to do. I think they air it 30 times a year still, because they repeats all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how many times you've watched it. You'll hop in 1 o'clock in the morning, bloop, eating a bowl of cereal. And so, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's 3 days of production. He came in, he wants you to do a couple dishes, have some, restaurant customers there as well. So some fake customers there. They do a segment with them as well. And then, a couple magic television shots and stuff like that over the 3 days.
What year is this?
2016.
Okay.
Something like that.
Did you feel like as he was there and as the Food Network production crew was there, I have to nail this. This is my big break.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, even like down to like, if you've seen the show or the episode, like I always wear a bib apron and my bib apron is down and it's showing our shirt, And they suggested that. And I was like, oh man, this feels really uncomfortable. I never wear a bib apron down. but I did it. And now, like, we even have people call us from France, having us ship shirts to them because they love the t-shirt. I was like, smart, so smart, like get as much promotion as you can.
Product placement, what a concept.
Totally. So like, let's just get as much promotion as we can out of this thing. And it was super fun. I mean, his son was on our episode with us. And I felt like we nailed it. And now, I mean, we used to only sell 2 pig heads a month. Now we sell 4 to 6 a week.
Wow.
So he really like put it on the map for us. Yeah.
How big of a change was it before the show and after the show?
Pretty big time. They call it the Guy Fieri effect.
Yeah.
I did an interview for the Globe about it.
Wow.
And you see the increase in business happen right away. I mean, people follow him. He has a cult following. They plan their vacations around it, I mean, I was just in Minneapolis last weekend and I follow this other guy on TikTok and I made sure that I knew the addresses. And so like these like things are like true, right? You find somebody and you happen to be going to that area. Like, oh, I remember he was there and he ate that thing. Like
I was in Nashville a few weeks ago. I mean, so many places to go. So I'm like, let me go where Triple D went. Found a spot and boom. I make a lot of culinary decisions based on where's Guy Fieri been.
You're like, oh, I was here, like,
and then you see his like handprint on the thing on the wall.
We have it on the wall at Vida as well. And so, I mean, it just like, now at that point, it's 2016. Now we're jamming, like now we're in our groove. Now we're feeling it. People are starting to believe in us. The community's starting to trust us a little bit more and we're starting to become a local spot, you know? And so it's really cool to see like, oh, this is what this restaurant has good potential now. Now we're starting to, bring in some people and I would say make some money, but not really even then just yet, but it's succeeding and we're getting some good praises, And
it's around age 40 that it's finally starting to work.
Yeah, it's starting to work. And really I have the drive to really push it, which is kind of crazy because of, most people in their industry that have been doing it for a long time or whatever it is at age 40, they're starting to go the outs, like let's hit a level and push it to 50 and then start to think about the retirement and stuff like that. But at age 40, I was like, let's give it all we got, and let's go for the next level. And that was really, really fun. Really taxing on the family as well, because everything was to the restaurant, right? I missed all those years of everything, like one point I did get to coach my son's little league team, but there were so many things I missed. That's the shitty part about this industry, right? When everybody else is at birthday parties, weddings, stuff like that, you're in the kitchen. When your kids are being tucked in at night, reading a book, you're in the kitchen. So it's like you miss so much of that life behind it, but you have to, if you want to get your restaurant to a place where you don't have to be there as often.
Why do you think Vida is so highly regarded in this area?
Ooh, I mean, it's true to what it does, right? Like down to the food that we prepare, everything's fresh. Nothing is fake, like we hand press our tortillas every day. We make guacamole from scratch, 3 cases every day. Even down to our margaritas, we juice 2 to 3 cases of limes a day. So we're giving people honest food. And then we created an environment that makes you feel like it's your home at the same time. I mean, most of our employees have been with us 7 years plus.
That's incredible.
That's the true marking of a good restaurant, I feel like, or good ownership as well, And I feel like I owe that not only to myself, but also to my wife that is in there all the time, setting the tone, setting the energy for the day. Everything, she bakes our bread. She's our pastry maker, our pastry chef at the restaurant as well. But she's the first one in and she goes through and smudges the restaurant and makes sure like we believe in that high energy and making sure that energy is sets the tone for the day. And I feel like that first of all sets why we're so, loved by our community. But then on top of it, we do a lot for our community, not only through our actions and social justice, but also through, school projects, everything that we can, that doesn't, extend us too far. We try to give back as much as possible. And I feel like that support then is returned to us as well.
And I want to talk about those efforts and your recent decision to remove yourself a little bit from Vida in a moment. But first, I selfishly have to ask. So we're both of us, for those watching on video, we're both wearing Ornell's barbecue shirts. Shout out.
Willie.
We love you, Will. We've had Will Mishka of Ornell's on the show before, and Ornell's is a place that is near and dear to the hearts of Seacoast stories. So this place, I believe, opened in 2018.
Correct.
You are a part owner of it.
Correct.
As part of the J group led by Jay McSherry. Why did you want to be a part of Ornell's, and what did you see in Will that made you believe in this?
So Will was my chef de cuisine for numerous amounts of years. Him and I hit it off right off the bat. You know, we're the same makeup. So his story and my story align, right? Both had shitty daddies that left us pretty much. So we had to grow up on ourselves with our moms, you know. We were both drug addicts and fuck ups and everything. And then realized that chefing was like the one thing that we were really good at, and we both dove deep into
Will
it.
didn't tell me any of this. Come on, Will. Give me the goods.
Sorry, chef. But we all, you know, so we come from that same makeup all together. And so when the opportunity arose, we actually tested it out at Vida for quite a numerous amounts of weekends. Every Friday night was barbecue night, and we smoked brisket after brisket, actually to a point where I was like, fuck, dude, I am so brisketed out. Like, I'm not a big meat eater, actually. And so we had that connection right off the bat. And so when that opportunity came up, I was like, I had the money, and I was like, I will totally invest in this thing right here. I knew that was the winning model, having him as the owner and knowing that he would give that same effort and same drive that I gave. And that's what you would need, you know? And it came very true when the pandemic hit, you know? Vida, Cantina, or Nell's were the only two restaurants in the group that stayed open. We were the ones that pushed through, you know? And because we wanted to make sure that for ourselves that we succeeded and saw the other side of it, because we had no idea what it was going to do to restaurants at all. And so we just kept driving. What's next? What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And so like that, I knew when he was my chef de cuisine there, that he would take that mentality and put it forward to see himself succeed in life as well.
Wow. I know Will worked under you at Vida. He also worked very closely with Evan Hennessy, who we've also had on the show.
Oh, cool.
He heads up Stages in Dover, amazing restaurant as well. Again, I've never worked in the industry. Is this common where, you know, because like I come from the world of sports. I worked in sports. Everything's super competitive. The starting quarterback doesn't want to like coach the backup quarterback knowing I'm coaching you to take my job.
No.
Evan, Will, you're all kind of like coaching each other and learning and teaching each other, knowing that like I might be training Will Mishka to go open a restaurant that might be better than mine.
That's what, you know, rising tide raises all ships, you know? And so like, that's that mentality. It's only going to better our area and our community, get more people to come here. So it's not like, that's something I used to say to Chef Will all the time. I want you to come take my job. Come take my job. That's how good I want you to be, you know? And then you're going to eventually ship off, you know? And then I'm going to have to train somebody else. And that's just the world of the restaurant business itself. For me, I want to have better humans in this world. It's not about my restaurant succeeding. It's about succeeding with better humans in this world. Because this world's so amazing in so many ways. The Seacoast is so amazing in so many ways, but it's also fucked in so many ways, right? I mean, during the whole pandemic and the murder of George Floyd, I woke up in the morning and had a litter of flyers over my front yard that said, "Keep New England white," you know, like, and that shit goes on, you know, whether or not people of the Seacoast or New England want to believe it. You know, that's the shit that actually happens. And my wife and I were out there 6 o'clock in the morning picking up, I don't know, like 75 flyers all over our front lawn and down our street. So our kids didn't have to see it when they woke up, you know, and not that we want to keep it blind to them or, you know, hide that shit from them because we talk to them about it all the time. But like, I remember in Arizona, I guess I couldn't call it a fight when I just like worked at a nightclub when I was in Arizona. At the same time, I was working at the steel factory. And I remember at the end of the night, we had to like get people out of the parking lot and stuff. And I was walking back to inside the nightclub. I was the DJ there. And this guy, like, I had seen him before. I knew he was a white supremacist or whatever, but he came around the corner and I didn't see him and he blasted me right in the nose. And it was I've been hit plenty of times in the face, plenty of times, but this was one of the hardest times I've ever been hit. And I got down to my knees and he stood over me and he was like, "White power, you fucking white fucking power." And I was like, wow, this is like I've experienced racism before, but like, this is the most harsh experience. I tried to get up and I tried to fight and I've never been blasted that hard before. And so like all these things have shaped where I'm at right now and where I want to see not only like the future go and what I can do and make a difference, but also for my kids and the kids that I get to work with as well.
Wow. Thank you for sharing those stories, David. I'm so sorry that you've had to experience those things, and I can't imagine what that must have been like for you and your family. I have so many follow-ups. We're going to have you on again soon to go more in depth on these experiences, but I know we're on a time crunch here. And so I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the New England B.I.P.O.C Fest, which is something that you and our mutual friend Joe Kelly partnered together on. Can you tell me more about what this festival is and why it exists?
So, it really happened and during the pandemic after the murder of George Floyd. Myself and Evan Mallett, we found ourselves at a rally and we, as chefs, for some reason, we were able to have this platform, and we have to continue to use this platform for the better. It can't just be the same shit all the time, of just getting like, if we're looked at in some way in high regards, why not use it for the better of our community altogether? And what better way than to support the Black, Indigenous, people of color communities that aren't really looked at as a part of New England, right? I talked about those flyers, right? They said, keep New England white. And it's the dumbest thing when we're not even the originators of this land, right? The native people are the originators, that we stole it from them. Like, it's mind boggling to me. It makes me so irritated and so upset. So at that time, Evan and I decided like, hey, let's put on a festival that really supports the BIPOC community. We talked to Joe Kelly and the three of us formed New England B.I.P.O.C Fest. We're going into our 5th year. It's on Sunday, August 17th this year at Strawberry Bank. The first year we had 750 attendees. Last year we had over 5,000 attendees at this fucking festival. The coolest thing about it is 100% free to the community. We wanted to make it completely accessible to all types of income. So it's completely sponsor driven. We spend all year long looking for sponsors to make this happen. And unlike any of these other events that happen all year long for chefs, where they are like, hey, come serve a one biter, but do it out of the goodness of your heart and out of the goodness of your food costs and out of your money that you don't make from your business. We pay every vendor that comes there. Wow. So if you're a chef and you're coming to do a bite and you support the BIPOC community, or you represent the BIPOC community, should I say, if you're a part of the festival, you get paid a stipend to cover the cost of your food. Wow. We pay all our entertainers and everything. And then at the same time, if you're a community member, you get to enjoy the whole day for free. You get to have every single bite there for free. Indigo Oyster, a BIPOC owned oyster company out of Portland, was shucking, 5,000 oysters last year, every single one free, everything. We had incredible artists last year. It's just a beautiful day under the sky, supporting the marginalized communities of New England and seeing how strong we can be all together. Wow. I am so excited to go. Yeah. One, are you still looking for sponsors, vendors, everything, entertainers? All the time. Okay. We'll put some information to that in the show notes of this episode. I heard Joe say a couple months ago at a talk that this is for the white people. Yeah. This BIPOC festival. Yeah. Why does she say that? This isn't like, we want people to understand that it's a community event. We want you to come in and we want you to understand what what makes up New England, you know? And so like you could be at, you know, and never gone to, let's just say One Love Cuisine in the mall, right? They're one of our participants, Jamaican cuisine, my favorite restaurant on the Seacoast.
Really? Is in Fox Run Mall.
Fox Run Mall.
What?
Dialed it. Chef Rowan, shout out. That's my boy.
All right.
I had my birthday dinner there. They did a 3-course meal at the Fox Run Mall. Made me this amazing rum. It was insane, like next level. Their food is so good. Yeah, you could either get it from the buffet or they're fresh. You like fish?
Yeah,
they do a fresh snapper, pan fried, to order. Just so good. So good.
I've never heard anyone mention this place to me before.
My favorite restaurant. The energy there, fresh juice. I know you like your fresh juice.
I do.
Yeah. The fresh beet juices, carrot juice. I like,
wow. Yeah. All right. I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, totally. But like, you know, it's for you to come in, just like what we're saying here, right? And experience these different restaurants, organizations that represent the BIPOC communities that you don't know about, you know? They're marginalized. They're misled. You know, a lot of these mom and pop places, they don't know how to promote themselves. They don't know. They want to stay like just supporting their family, right? And so like if we can create an environment for them to feel safe, first of all, especially with what's going on in the fucking world right now. And if we can create a place where they can promote themselves, even better. So it is for the whole fucking community to come out and enjoy.
August 17th in Portsmouth.
Strawberry Bank.
I cannot wait to see all of you there. So, Chef, we are sitting in the empty cafeteria on summer break at Noble High School.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
So I am, as of January, I'm the new school nutrition director for the MSAD 60, North Berwick, Lebanon, Berwick School District. 4 elementary schools, and now, because of our reconfiguration this summer, a junior, senior high.
Why did you want to do this?
So this is something I started with the Kittery School District about 7 years ago. And it was like they invited me in to cook chicken parm one time, and they handed me these Tyson chicken patty burgers. And I was like, dude, this is not it. So I actually ended up reaching out to Vernon Family Farms, and Jeremiah and Nicole donated a bunch of chicken to us. And we, at the Kittery School District, we ended up making true primo chicken parm, you know? And so I realized it takes a community to feed a community. And I should have known that, especially thinking about my restaurant. And so I wanted to dive in, and my kids are in the Kittery School District. And I was like, I want them to eat better food if I want them to become educated better, you know? And so I just started looking into the system. And so back in 2018, I formed the Chef and Farm to School program in the Kittery School District. And I brought in a different chef and a different farm every month for a whole year. And we rewrote USDA recipes and introduced from scratch cuisine into the school district. I met the nutrition director that way. We became friends. And this opportunity landed in my lap in September of last year. And she's like, you know, this might be a great opportunity for you if you're looking to make a transition. And I didn't know I was, but I was like, at this point, Vida's 12 years old. I really felt like, you know what? I think it's time for me to make a transition out and kind of push my career in a different way and figure out how I can continue to give back to the community, still work with food, and challenge myself in a different way. And so I applied for this position and I got it. And it's been incredible since. It is so fun. We've added 182 recipes into our recipe catalog here at the district.
Wow.
But we're trying to introduce different meals that kids aren't used to, you know, pollo asado, plantains, chicken gyros, you know, things like that. Things like we can take the free USDA food and transform them into something good and something fun and something different than just your basic, you know, spaghetti and meatballs and things like that. So where you're sitting inside is the Noble High School, which is a cool cafeteria. We offer a hot entree here. We also offer a spicy chicken burger, a regular chicken burger, a regular hamburger, a
You're
cheeseburger.
making me hungry, David.
We offer fresh made subs, a pizza every single day,
Wow.
and then a fresh salad bar, and then fresh pre-made salads, and oh my gosh, parfaits as well every day. So
kids are eating like kings.
Yeah. So, and it's been super cool. It's been super challenging, but I love this, it's like I started in January 1st and I had to change my mentality right away as far as like my schedule wise. Right. So now I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
And I'm done by 2:30 in the afternoon. And I still check in with the restaurants on a daily / weekly basis. Mostly Vida. Will's really in charge of the Ornell empire. But with Vida, I have great, incredible staff there that started with me at this young age. The two chefs, my chef and my sous chef, one started with me when she was 14, my chef now. And then my sous chef started with me when he was a junior in high school. And now he's gone to graduate culinary school and came back. And so the two of them are absolutely incredible. I couldn't ask for anybody better. And they're just, riding their wave, telling their story at the same time.
How hard has it been for you? As you said, Vida has been around for 12 years at this point, and you have built it from nothing into something. And now to back out from the everyday in the weeds grind of it all, what has that transition been like?
It's super hard, especially watching it. Jay, my business partner, told me, if you ever want to leave your restaurant, you have to be with it okay. You have to be okay with it being 20% not how you want it to be. And it's the toughest thing because you look at it, you walk through. Nobody wants to be seagull managed. You know what seagull manages?
No.
So it's when you come in, you shit on everybody, and you fly out, right? Nobody wants to be seagull managed, And so, so you have to be able to walk in and just like look at everything and be like, wow, that's not how I would do it. Okay, but that's okay, Like even now, like I walk into the restaurant, I was in there yesterday, and they listen to music during service. I would fucking flip out. I would throw the radio across the kitchen probably if somebody tried to turn the radio on during service. Like I just don't do it. Like it's a faux pas of mine. Like that's when it's time to get serious. But they're rocking it. We've had amazing reviews since the two of them have taken over, and they haven't missed a beat really, Like obviously they're going to stumble. They're young. They're 21 years old, I still stumble all the time. And so but it's been so freeing for me to realize that I can step away from it. The restaurant still run. It's not going to go fucking down in a blaze of glory. My wife is still there doing the bread and the pastries. My son still works the line. So I'm still there in some form. But at 2:30, I get to go home and have all the time with my family, have dinner with them, all the things, especially for me in this last, half a year before my son leaves for college, to have all this time with him has just been absolutely epic.
Well, that sounds like a great deal of growth, and I'm very happy for you. I have two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. Thank you so much for all of your time. I heard you say also in this podcast I referenced earlier, Restaurant Unstoppable, hosted by our friend Eric, that your stepfather, who was your de facto father, the one who raised you, that as you were growing up and he was a police officer, he would tell you often to justify your existence.
Yeah.
David, do you feel your existence has been justified? I
do. And for a long time, I had no idea what that meant. As a kid, justifying your existence, you think about those things. You're like, man, that's a lot to take in. You're like, damn, but my father deported 13 times before he was actually led into this country. Started at the age of 9 years old coming over, and then became eventually the most decorated police officer in the state of California. He's not a criminal. He's an immigrant, a legal immigrant, and then was like, went through the due process to get his status. He justified his existence by making a place for his family to come here and have a better life. And so for me, as I grew older in my career, I realized my existence had to be justified by making my community stronger and making my family stronger in the community I wanted to be in. And so finally I gotten to that point.
Chef, thank you so much for joining me today. We have one final question, and it's brought to you by David Higgins, local Seacoast resident and the official investment office of Seacoast Stories. We ask this same final question at the end of every episode every week, and Chef, I will ask it to you. David, if you were to leave this earth tomorrow, what would you hope people remember about you?
Oh, man. See, so you just brought chills to me, because I never think about anything like that. There's no legacy I need, besides that my kids felt like they were loved by me, that my wife felt that she was appreciated by me. Like that's it, like Vida, everything else that we're doing here. I hope it continues on in some form with other people, like that's what I'm hoping, like we can spark interest in other people and they can realize what is the important things in the world, like I talked about touching making sure everybody that walks through the doors of Vida is understood that we're going to make them not only a good chef we're going to make them better human at that, But that whole legacy shit, I don't really need that. I just need to make sure that my kids, when they go to have kids, that they take on that. And I taught them some good things from it. I know I fucked up plenty of times. They don't give you a rule book or a handbook when you're a parent, but they walked away feeling like my pops, because that's what they call me, my pops taught me this, and I'm going to teach my kid this. Like, that's what I want to leave behind.
That's Chef David Vargas, the head honcho at Vida Cantina, co-owner of Ornell's Barbecue, and nutrition director at Noble High School in North Berwick. To support David, you can check out any of his restaurants, or better yet, come out to the New England B.I.P.O.C Fest on August 17th at Strawberry Bank. And if you'd be willing to support this podcast, we'd love it if you told one person about the show, or if you shared your favorite episode on social media. Each share gets us one step closer to bringing the Seacoast together through this podcast. That's it for today. But if you see me around town this week, perhaps at Laney and Lou, Hampton Beach, or at Dinner Club on Wednesday, then please stop me and say hi. I would love to hear your story. Until then, have a great week. Live free or die.